checken. So. Nicht schimpfen. Your life. Psst. Hello, everybody. Hello, world. We are live, I guess. We hope. Welcome to the Fiedler Audio Dolby Atmos live stream, the first one. And hello, everybody. I see there's already some gentlemen, I guess it's gentlemen, in the chat. If you guys can hear me, then it would be great if you could raise the thumb also. And of course, my name is Thomas Wendt, and here is Mr. Thomas Fiedler. Hello.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this live stream.
Okay, you can hear me all right, I can hear you all right, and I hope the world can hear us all right. Maybe you guys can check and, send a thumb up to be on the safe side. There's a thumbs up. Awesome. Wonderful. So, we have a lot of subjects prepared for today, and we are sure that we wouldn't be able to get into everything in detail. But this is just the first attempt to bring this to you guys and to offer a little bit of discussions, question and answers, things like this, understanding Dolby Atmos a little bit better, the Fiedler audio tools. And so we will pick up on your questions and then come back with specialized broadcasts, I guess. So let's start with Mr. Thomas Fiedler briefly. Fiedler Audio on the market for I think it's 2.5 years now.
No, longer. Way longer.
Longer.
Way
No,
longer.
yeah, that's true. You came to the market with the 84
80. The
80
8480.
reverb. First, it showed up on iOS, then on the propeller heads side. So
Yeah.
you had how was it called? Rack
rack
extension,
extension.
indeed. And then you have a reverb on Plugin Alliance and some other cool tools on Plugin Alliance as well. But the thing with immersive audio for you started when you created together with Fraunhofer Institute SpaceLab, the 3D reverb. And then you realized quickly that the format out there for immersive audio is, of course, Dolby Atmos. And that's happened at the same time when Dolby and Apple, for example, joined forces to bring Dolby Atmos to music, all the music listeners. And suddenly, it started that music content happened to be available to the streamers in Dolby Atmos, and of course on the physical media as well, like Blu-rays and things like this. And this is going to be a very important part of our discussion today. So, and then, with the SpaceLab and the decision to go to Dolby Atmos came the Dolby Atmos Composer, certified and approved by Dolby Labs, a Dolby Atmos creation tool. Basically consists of two plugins, the Beam plugin and the Dolby Atmos Composer itself. And then you didn't stop. Then came the unique Gravitas compressor, which goes as a module into the Dolby Atmos Composer. Now for the first time, it is possible to master Dolby Atmos properly. And that's the only solution out there so far. And there's the mastering console for all the people who have ADM files, so the Dolby final format files, and want to get into them and master them as well. That's just a quick run through the Fiedler audio portfolio. And not to forget that the Dolby Atmos Composer, the creation tool, makes it possible to create Dolby Atmos music content with any DAW. So either you have something like Pro Tools or PreSonus Studio One, where the Dolby renderers are built in, or in Logic it's built in as well. But with the Fiedler Audio Composer, you can create Atmos with any DAW, and even with the ones who have the renderer built in, because I hope we will find this out and agree on that fact later. with a Dolby Atmos composer, you're much more, I don't know, flexible. The workflow is easier, and especially for musicians, it's a much more creative workflow because you don't have to lose your stereo mix while you're taking this onto the Atmos, into the Atmos world. So that should be enough as an introduction. And yeah, Dolby Atmos for music. Thomas, what's your view on this after maybe like 1.5 years or so that is possible? What are the formats where Dolby Atmos music can be consumed before we get to the creation part, what it involves to, well, create Dolby Atmos? So how do you see it, and yeah, how has it evolved from your point of view?
Well, Dolby Atmos for music is quite young. It's just out there a few years. I mean, Dolby Atmos started up with cinema more than 10 years ago, and so Dolby Atmos in that moment was designed to be well. They designed it. Dolby designed it as a so-called object-based audio format, meaning you deliver your mix not as a fixed in a fixed form in a fixed channel layout, and that's it, like stereo 5.1 or whatever, but you deliver it in a way that it can be actually mixed together later. And so what you are basically delivering is up to 128 channels, and they contain some position information so that the playback system later can decide what to do with that. And then it took some years until the step was taken to bring that also to the music world. And then the question arose, okay, well, 5.1 was basically a flop. How can we bring, or how Dolby thought, how can they bring it to the music community today, so that it doesn't become a flop like 5.1? 5.1 became basically a flop because not because it's a bad format, but because almost nobody has 6 speakers in their home, and if they have 2 speakers, then, well, who knows where they put it in the living room. Only a few people actually have a dedicated room for listening to music, or at least really can have some freedom on how to play speakers and have a nice acoustic environment, etc. So that was really an important question for Dolby. So, well, the most natural thing came up, which is headphones. Natural, why? Because first, on headphones, you have an absolutely controlled environment. You have 2 speakers. One goes to one ear, the other goes to the other ear. There's no acoustic disturbance, so to speak, no reverb or whatever from the room, no room modes, meaning the resonance is inside the room and all that stuff. You have a quite direct signal. And with all the knowledge which existed already and exists today, of course, about binaural reproduction, then this is an ideal candidate to get to a lot of people, because anyone can put up a headphone and listen. Anyone can do this, and with algorithms for simulating directional hearing, meaning binaural algorithms, becoming better every day. There's a quite a I would say rosy future for that, or listening to 3D audio on headphones. And Atmos is one of those 3D capable audio formats which can deliver nicely on headphones. And well, that's basically the biggest part of those who listen to Dolby Atmos nowadays, because this is very easy. There are three basically other ways of listening to Atmos. One, of course, is the classical approach, like they have it in the studios. You have a multi-channel speaker layout, which costs a lot of money. Sounds very nice, but you have to have a dedicated room for that. You have to spend some significant money to get it right. And then there are cars Well, cars, they also have a lot of speaker built in, but cars have the problem that they are cars, and that means they have a very bad acoustics inside, where you can't do much about because, well, all the glass is a heavy reflector. You have a very cramped space inside, and the car will always sound like a car. And I was recently on an event where I tested some of these Dolby Atmos implementations in cars. And yeah, I mean, you get a better feeling of, and you get a better immersion, so to say, than what you when you're just listening to stereo. But it's far from actually having a clear directional perception, like a well balanced image of the music, so to say. And then the last thing, or the last way to listen to Dolby Atmos is on so-called smart speakers. And there are lots of different smart speakers. Some you can put below your TV, and they try to use some reflection of the wall to get to involve you, to give you the feeling that sound is also coming from other sides than that side where the speaker is actually located. And this works if you have a good room and if it's well placed. But if you have a room where the roof is like this, you are lost. If you have if it's placed in a way where you have a wall on the right side but no wall on the left side, you're also lost. You have a disbalanced image. And so you can get some immersion, but it's very far from perfect. So this is basically the situation. So as I said before, the best way to listen to Dolby Atmos for most people is just a good pair of headphones.
Yeah, and the subtitle for this evening, for this discussion, is pun intended, of course, the good, the bad, and the ugly of Dolby Atmos. And yeah, you touched already some of these subjects. And I think what's good really is that it gives you the opportunity to broaden the spectrum of how you hear the instruments, and it gives you a more 3D image of what's happening music-wise, because in the music production, there have been a lot of changes and developments over the last decades, and very often there's a lot of stuff going on that has to be crammed into just the stereo speakers, and we are all aware. We are aware of the loudness wars and things like this, and to have more places to put the instruments, of course, gives us a little bit more opportunity to get a little bit more transparency into the entire picture of the music as well. So that Dolby offers a format that it's possible to do this. That's absolutely great. And the thing is just with a lot of things, and also with the 5.1 and some other stuff, whenever you offer a certain dish to a customer, you have to think about the customer. What is the habit of receiving and enjoying things that are offered to the customer? And that's exactly the point. You can hear Dolby Atmos with discrete systems in expensive studios. That's amazing. It's an amazing experience. We've been to the showrooms for the Genelec showroom, for example, in Berlin, and visited some producers lately who have discrete Atmos listening systems, and that's a fantastic experience. But then if you go out into the field, and we did this as well, if you go to a hi-fi store and you say, hey, here's a USB stick, a thumb drive, and we have some Atmos music on here, and we would like to check some listening solutions for Dolby Atmos. We so far had no luck at all. First, it was impossible to bring the content onto the device to make it able to pick it up, read it from the media, and play it back. And second, all these devices have as we found so far, some limitations or some specialties in terms of how they would interpret what's coming from the ADM file, the final Dolby Atmos file, and how to, bring these elements which are in this ADM file to the people. And there are some amazing things that were obviously in the decision process at the makers of these listening systems, because sometimes things show up where they were not supposed to show up sonically. And so that's a little bit of the ugly. And then sometimes if you have a discrete system for listening to Atmos, even if you have a big living room system with 7.1.2, the downside is if you listen to stereo stuff in between, you have only 2 speakers on, and only when there's an Atmos stream coming, it opens up to all the speakers. So Dolby decides which speaker you are allowed to use and switches off your speakers in your home. I think that's a kind of a rude thing to do, but that's just me. Forgive me. So yeah, the headphone, of course, is the place where you definitely have the full attention of the listener, and you know what you're dealing with. And that's why I think that you think that as well, and you said it in a way, that the headphone is basically the format to focus on if you think creating Dolby Atmos content for music listeners. And there are 3, and this most probably will happen through the streamers. And what we know so far is we know about Apple Music. They even have some headphones dedicated to detecting the Atmos stream. Then we have Tidal, and correct me if I'm wrong, and we have Amazon as well.
Yeah.
Amazon Music, the premium thing. But as far as I heard, and that's maybe that has changed, but it only works on desktop PCs and not with the app on the phones so far. But let's stick to Tidal and to Apple Music, and the most important, I think, is Apple Music anyways. And yeah, this leads us to the quality of the content that's out there, and that's also a big concern and heavily discussed in the forums where the music enthusiasts are discussing Dolby Atmos content. So how, just technically, if you have a stereo stream and the stereo stream reaches your headphones, you have set the volume, and the stereo headphone sounds just as it sounds. And then suddenly there's an Atmos stream, and what happens and what's the difference and why? Could you enlighten us with your professional background on that one?
Okay. Well, yeah. Well, stereo is pretty self-explanatory. You have 2 channels. One goes to the left side, one goes to the right side. With Atmos, things are a little bit more complicated, naturally, because the idea is to reproduce 3D audio on headphones. And if you ever created an ADM file, you know it's quite big. It's really big. It can be gigabytes without any problem. So this amount of data is impossible to stream. So what Dolby made or created is a heavily size reduced format, and they packed it into the MP4 container. And this file format basically reduces the information. It's a lossy format. It's not lossless. It's a lossy format which reduces a lot the information inside your Dolby Atmos mix. So this is one thing you need to know when you're creating Dolby Atmos mixes, that you always check the MP4 to see how it translates. And of course, Dolby, as they state, they are constantly looking to improve this transmission format. I mean, for Dolby Atmos currently there are two formats. There's the delivery format, which is the ADM BWF file, which is your mix as you did it on your machine. And then there's the MP4 file, which is the one where the ADM file is transcoded to. And this is the actual delivery format, and this is sent to you via streaming, or you play it back from your Blu-ray disc. And then the decoder, the Dolby Atmos decoder, takes that MP4 file, and if you have headphones, then it renders this file to your headphones. Now, what you need to know is the following thing. Since we are talking about the 3D audio format, you cannot and you should not expect the same image, I would say image, like you are used to listen to in stereo, especially if you have something what is very common in rock music, doubled guitars. You have one recorded guitar on the left side and one recorded guitar on the right side. This works quite well when you listen to it on the speakers, especially when the speakers are well placed in a triangle with you as a listener. Then it has a very nice and rich sound. When you listen to that on headphones, you get like these extremely unnatural whiteness. Now you might say, yeah, unnatural, you wouldn't say this, but yes, it is actually from an acoustic perspective, it is unnatural. We are just used to because we never experienced anything else than that when it comes to stereo on headphones. So if you have a 3D audio format, then you have sounds which are not only placed to left and right, but you have sounds placed in front of you, behind you, above you, maybe one day below you. And all those sounds which are above you or in front of you or behind you, they are coming basically in on both speakers of your headphone. So they are contributing to make the overall perceived image more narrow. But this is also natural. If we have an equal distribution of sounds coming from all sides, then we will never be as wide as you would feel the sound when you listen to, for example, doubled guitars. Because the statistical position of every object, only very few are actually at the extremes on the side. Most of them are somewhere in between. And also, what you also need to know is that the binaural reproduction tries to mimic the acoustic properties of our hearing when for signals coming from different positions. And even if you have in a real environment a sound source coming, for example, exactly from the right side, you will still hear something on the left ear, because every sound in space will reach always both ears. So you just cannot get as the same like sonic characteristic as you are used to from stereo. So what we need to think about in 3D audio is not so much trying to mimic stereo, because that is neither possible nor it is the idea. But the idea of all of that is to make a more emotional music experience. And that is possible because our hearing by nature is 3D. We all the time hear in 3D. So, and 3D on headphones gives us the possibility to actually use our brain, which is capable of processing 3D audio information, to give us the best impact for music. So I imagine that when the mixers and the creators and the composers get more proficient with 3D audio formats or 3D audio music production, over time things will get more emotionally impactful, and then you will really think, wow, this is something I always wanted to hear on headphones. And when you go back to the stereo, to the old stereo mixes, which are actually mixes done on speakers, for speakers, not for headphones, then you will say, nah, although it sounds pretty fat and wide, it sounds unnatural. It doesn't impact so much. I think there there's a great potential in binaural audio, in 3D audio and headphones, which can really take you to another level of music experience. And for each genre of music, it just has to be found out what is the best way to mix it. Well, if there is one best way, but I think there is a great creative potential. And you already, Tom, you already mentioned one place that one aspect of that, and this is that you don't have to that your different signals, your different instruments and so on, they don't have to fight so much for space in your mix, because you don't have to cramp them into one small line between two speakers, but you have all the 3D space around you, and there's a lot of creative potential. And there's another thing which is especially interesting for headphones, and that's it's that you have another dimension for listening, which you will never ever have on speakers, no matter what kind of speakers you have. And this is intimacy. You know that you can, when you play something back on headphones without any reverb, it is extremely near. It's almost like in your head. And of course, many people, when they think, okay, I want to hear something on a binaural way, then I want to have the out of head experience. I want to have them like in real life, in like outside of my head. This is another thing. But both can live in the same mix. And this is something really interesting. This gives you another creative dimension to play with distance, to play with another kind of depth in your musical creation, which you will never be able to play back on any speakers, and therefore you can create really a new and very very impactful musical experience. And Dolby Atmos already has something in place for that. These are the 4 binaural modes you can adjust for each channel. You can switch binaural off, then it will just be like stereo. You can pen them between the left and the right channel, or they will be mixed to the left and right channel. It will be just used like a stereo down mixing from your position information, or you can adjust one of the, or select one of the 3 binaural modes, which is near, mid, and far, which give you some feeling of depth. And this is already something which gives you a lot of creative possibilities. And of course, you can go much further than that when you use reverb, because these different binaural modes they give you they come with some flavor, so to say. They use some kind of reverb to give you this feeling of depth and distance, because that's how our hearing works. But you can also do the same thing, but in a different way, when using reverb. And
Okay.
this is another explanation, another topic. But
Yeah.
just to give you an overview
Mm-hmm.
of creative possibilities you have on headphones, and just as you said before, 90 or 95% of the people listen to Atmos on headphones. That's the main audience. So whenever we create music, we
And
should really think about that.
and also you're in control, because with all the other
Yeah,
formats, we found that out the hard way. You're not in control, because depending on the speaker system, as I said before, the manufacturers decide on how to deal with what's in the ADM format or in the MP3 format, and where to put it. Because, for example, I just put some things into the side speakers and was listening back through the physical 5.1.2 system at a friend's house, and everything on the side speakers happened on the left and right speakers, which was really annoying, because the discussions out there very often say, yeah, Dolby Atmos has to be adopted by the composers so that you can create special stuff for the Dolby Atmos phones, create music for Dolby Atmos. But if you do that and you have, these undefined listening situations, you're getting into a lot of sonic trouble when things you plan to be somewhere just show up there and get into conflict with each other.
yeah,
Not so on the headphones, because then if you put something here in the headphones, they will show up here.
yeah,
Depending on the sonic capabilities of the headphones, the sound might be not as pristine or as
But actually, it doesn't depend. Actually,
roomy.
it doesn't depend, and that's a good thing. You can use any headphone. It doesn't matter what headphone you want. Well, I mean,
Right.
if you want to have head tracking, well, then you have something with head tracking capability. But
Okay.
otherwise, any headphone you can use. And if you want to ask me what headphone would be best for that, then my answer is the headphone you know best, the headphone where you know how things should sound.
Right.
So that's the best. If you want to start making music, take a. You don't have to. I mean, if you start out with headphones, then you have to, of course, all the free range. But if you have, like me, these headphones I know for 25, 30 years, so this is my go-to headphone for also for Dolby Atmos listening because I know the sound inside out.
Yeah. And the people now want to know what kind of headphones these are. But before we get to the end, to answering this question is, um, I have to concentrate myself because we were digressing a little bit.
Yeah,
What was that? Oh, you talked about the reverb and the room experience and the headphone. Yes, and oh, yeah, that's the point. Because speaking of the headphones, a lot of people think that you need the Apple headphones to listen to Dolby Atmos on Apple Music. And that is simply not true because you can
yeah,
force Apple Music to play the Atmos stream once it's available just to the normal headphones you're wearing. It
exactly.
will do this as well to the speakers if you have a stereo speaker setup, and that will work not so well. But with this trick, you can listen to the Dolby Atmos mixes just with your favorite headphones you also use in the studio. And that's a very important thing. But before we go on, we have some questions here because we talked about MP4 format. And some guys say it's not available on the PC. And that's not entirely true. It's a tricky situation because the MP4 encoding usually is possible if you have the ADM file. You can convert it with a Dolby Atmos renderer by Dolby Labs into the MP4 file. And you can use the Amazon AWS system. There is some possibility to start a converter from your ADM file to MP4. And this is explained by Michael G. Wagoner in one of his videos. So go to YouTube and find that. That's a solution for doing it on the PC as well. Because I think the renderer, is it available on the PC? The Dolby
Uh,
Atmos renderer?
yeah, they made it recently available, but it's still a very yeah, what to say, very difficult situation. I'm not sure. I didn't test it out on Windows if it's possible to convert an ADM file to MP4. Maybe someone knows in the chat can leave a line on this. But yeah, well, these are the two options basically to create MP4 files.
Yeah. Okay. So now we're a little bit we moved into the creative realm. So how to deal with the format and how to transfer your content into this format. That's the thing. And before I get into this, there's so much stuff to say and to consider. So bear with me that I just think about it. We had the MP4 stuff. Oh, yeah, and I mean, I said that with the headphones, you are in control of. If you put stuff here, every user with a pair of headphones will hear the stuff from that very position. And now, yeah, the thing is how to get to your Dolby Atmos mix, and there are, I think, two basic approaches, and this might get pretty complicated if we get into this right now. But to break it down, one approach would be to utilize what's built into your DAW, which is basically then a version of the Dolby Atmos renderer. that is built into your DAW. And if you use that, I simplify here, you're pretty much forced to think your entire DAW project as channels with multiple channels, multi-channel content. And that makes it for music creators, I guess, that's where I come from at least, pretty difficult to get, their first steps going and get a feel for how to get into this format. And there's an alternative as well, and that is pretty well supported by the Dolby Atmos composer if you would use that for the content creation. And maybe we should look a little bit into these things that are required to get your music from your stereo mix to the Dolby Atmos mix. And now I remember what I wanted to say, because the stereo mixes have also to make they have to arrange between being created for speakers, being played in clubs and on PAs outside in your home systems, in your car, and on headphones. So there's always a compromise between these mixes that would work for speakers and for the headphones. And you can see that a lot of big studio guys like to listen to their stuff on the big studio speakers, but they know very well that what sounds good on them usually wouldn't work on all the consumer systems out there. So they brought in the now famous NS10s because they sound very limited in a way, or even some more limited speaker systems to control if the mixes would translate. And now we have the same with Dolby Atmos as well, but times 12, I guess. Because...
or 16 if you want.
16, yes. So because most of the Dolby Atmos mixes happen in studios with discrete, expensive, well-measured monitor systems. And, this is a new flavor of gatekeeping, because music production was a very democratic thing in the last years with all the new computer technology, and basically everybody could afford to create music, to master it, and to publish it. The Dolby Atmos format put a abrupt end to that, because the recommended system to create Dolby Atmos content is quite difficult to get. It's expensive, and you need to have special rooms for that. And that leads to, not as much as growth in the Dolby Atmos music content market, and the appreciation by the listeners and also by the creators and the songwriters and producers as it would be possible, because there's a new gatekeeper in there. You need to have that expensive studio again, and then you have to have this expensive stuff to listen to the stuff back afterwards. But that's all wrong. That's what you also say and can prove.
Yes.
Maybe we should touch this. So what's required these days? So what are they saying? How is Dolby Atmos music created? What are the tools? What's the workflow?
Yeah, well, since, as I said before, it all started out with cinemas, Dolby created, as you say, the gatekeeping. So they created a whole certification process for getting your studio certified for Dolby Atmos. That started out with the cinemas for the studios which produce movies for cinema. And there it somehow makes some sense because you want to make sure that you have a controlled environment. The idea is to have a controlled environment, and since movies in cinemas are always played back on big speaker systems in square, or no, not square, but in rectangular rooms. This is also a quite controlled environment because cinemas have certain technical specifications which they have to adhere to, so that the movie actually is a good experience when you not only see but listen to it. And this they dragged over to the music world, which is actually a gatekeeping mistake because, of course, up to until today, you can get your studio certified for Dolby Atmos, but then you have to get your an expensive speaker layout, you have to make acoustical arrangements, and so forth, and this will cost you big money. But the question is that really necessary to make a good Dolby Atmos mix for the music world, which basically listens mostly on headphones? And my take on that is no, you don't. Because when you go along with this policy of gatekeeping with the certified studios and your big speaker layouts, then you actually lose most people who would be able to create something amazing on Dolby Atmos. And it's also technically not necessary. I mean, it's not only a political thing or a money thing or an elite thinking thing, so that only the big guys can do that. But it's also a technical. There's also hard technical facts which say no, you don't need to have that. You can really do great mixes on headphones. We have the experience with that on different occasions with mixes which were only created on headphones. And of course, many people will say, no, then you sit in your studio with some headphones on. This is not professional. But this is actually just old white guys thinking, if I want to say it this way, where the people they just want to have this is like a status symbol, like an expensive car you're driving. You're showing off your expensive car, and the same thing happens with the studios actually. But the question is, what comes out of them? What is really the Dolby Atmos mix which comes out of them? And you can create on headphones competitive mixes, if you want to use the term competitive in the creative domain. Um, you can do so, and and it also makes sense because, look, I explained before the four different playback scenarios. You have headphones, you have cars, you have smart speakers, and you have complex and expensive speaker layouts. If you create a mix on headphones, it's obviously optimized for headphones. So nothing to say here. When you listen to a Dolby Atmos mix on smart speakers or in cars, the acoustical experience, although you get something from all sides in most cases, it's so spatially distorted, if you want. It's so not specific, not well designed, that a headphone mix will perfectly do. It will perform not less than a mix made on these expensive speaker layouts. And well, then it leaves only the expensive speaker layouts, where, of course, a mix which is created on speaker layouts will most probably, if it's done right, perform better than a mix created only on headphone layouts, only on headphones. But now think, who has an expensive speaker layout to actually listen to music? Almost nobody. So if you think about the listeners, about the people you want them to enjoy your music, go with headphones, because with the headphones you can satisfy most listening environments on the consumer side. So that's my take on headphones, and that's the first thing you need to start. A good pair of headphones, and then you need your DAW software. And with the Dolby Atmos Composer, you can use any DAW software, be it on Mac, be it on Windows, and the workflow is always the same. So you can create right from the start with a few clicks. You can just start your work in Dolby Atmos. You can start experimenting. You can go as easy as you want with just one signal in space, and you can go as complex as you want. There's basically the sky is the limit. And that said, it's also one of the most easy way to start. So it's specially designed for creative people who don't want their creative thinking and their creative workflow to be interrupted by technicalities of routing this there and then this there, and then you have to think, the sound is not coming, the object is not moving, what did I forget to click? And then you go there, here, and there. Of course, also things with the internal renderers become easier. Um, but there's a certain complexity to 3D audio, which cannot be avoided. But many of these things can be automated, and there the Dolby Atmos Composer is just king. It takes away all the manual burden, so that you just hook up your software where you need it, and then you can start creating. Be it a mix, you start from scratch, or be it a stereo mix which you have already done and you want to bring to the next level with Dolby Atmos without actually changing your session, without actually changing your stereo
Yeah.
mix. And you will always be able to listen back. You can listen to your stereo mix and you can listen to your Dolby Atmos mix. And there's one little more thing I want to mention, which Dolby added to Dolby Atmos recently, which is the format called Stereo Direct. And Stereo Direct, as opposed to stereo in Dolby Atmos, is not a downmix of your Atmos creation through various stages of downmixing, but it's rendered directly to stereo. And the idea of that thing is that you can actually produce an Atmos and from your Atmos mix derive your Atmos mix and your stereo mix. So that is something which is worth trying and worth looking into. That when you say, okay, because most distributors today they want an Atmos version and a stereo version of your songs, so that you make just one mix with the Dolby Atmos Composer, for example, and you get your ADM file and you get your stereo direct mix from just directly derived from your Atmos mix, and you can deliver them both. And they are
Okay.
perfectly in sync.
Yeah, that's really great. But if we, pedal back a little bit,
Mhm.
I mean, this was all correct and oops, very, very important information to be also complete. But if we pedal back a little bit and, you know, be the advocate for the music producer in their bedrooms or in their project studios, or of course in all their big studios where they used to work in stereo. And I heard it from quite some producers. They say, I don't want to bother with Dolby Atmos. I'd rather spend the time and the money required to invest in, composers and writing content and, following my profession. But of course, the demand increased, and all the record companies, the bigger ones, now expect to have stereo mix and the Dolby Atmos mix. So they were asked to hand in their projects or to deliver some stems, and then somebody else would create out of these stems a Dolby Atmos mix. And we met quite some producers who said, no, 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 no. If that's the way, then I bite in the bitter apple, as we say in Germany, and do this Dolby Atmos mix myself, but without the speaker system. And we had some really amazing results with producers who worked in Pro Tools and just got into the Dolby Atmos Composer. And after a day of working with it, they released a couple of Atmos mixes, which were after the weekend published on Apple Music by one of the big record labels. And they were really successful with it, and nobody could tell because it was an EP with several mixes contributing stuff, and you couldn't tell which mix was created with headphones and the Dolby Atmos composer or with a big, expensive speaker system. So that's the beautiful thing, and that's also for the workflow a very interesting thing, because when your stereo mix is done, if we take the traditional route, composer starts and comes up with a stereo mix that works on speakers and that works on headphones, then you know already that all your signals are in the right place in terms of frequencies and compression. So if you would be able then to just signal by signal, instrument by instrument, take out of the stereo field and put it, okay, the guitars are there, let's take them and put them here, just very organically, without dealing with, oh, I need to change all the channel plugins and the sound shaping things I used. And you can work like step by step. You can increase the width and the spectrum of your mix, starting from your stereo mix. That's so convenient and so easy and so and such a delight, I can tell you, that you should definitely try this. It's not difficult, and it's possible with the Dolby Atmos composer by Fiedler, because with all the other DAWs you might run into some challenges there. But this organic workflow is really great with the Dolby Atmos composer. And then if you want to even enhance the whiteness for some signals, because you are the one to decide, you can keep, transient critic signals in the front speakers, drums and stuff like that. But you can open up the back room and the sides and the top with a beautiful reverb. And now let's touch the Space Lab subject as well, because that's also a very easy thing. If you follow this workflow with just a stereo send, you can have access to if you want to, 9.1.6 3D reverb, and just send your vocals to it, which might come from the front pretty dry, but here they would bloom and open up a very nice room. So it's definitely something you should look at. And we have created some tutorials about this workflow and how this works. And with the success, some of the how would you call it? Producers who were bold enough to try this and not telling anybody. We have the proof that it works. And we recently had an event where there was some Dolby demonstrations in the big studio setup. And if you sneak in a mix you did on headphones and you see how this unfolds on the big speaker systems, then you're all good and everything is fine. And so don't be afraid of mixing for Dolby Atmos. And you can take it step by step, signal by signal, out of your stereo mix and place it into the room. And that's a very satisfying experience, I can tell you. I went through it the hard way, trying to find the new ways of doing stuff, but it's just amazing. And a lot of people should do that, because the more people who create content in Dolby Atmos, the more this format will be accepted, and the more people create amazing sounding content for Dolby Atmos and have it properly mastered, and the impact is as intense as from the things people are experienced from stereo.
Oh, even better.
Compared to some things which are out there, which might have been mixed on too many big speakers, because you know that, and Thomas said it in a conversation a couple of days ago, when you're mixing with loud on big speakers, you're guaranteed that your mix sucks on headphones and on
It
small.
becomes small. It sounds small. If you mix
Yeah,
loud, your mix sounds small. If you mix too low with a too low volume, your mix sounds compressed because your leveling is not right. So everything has to be in the right dimension, so to say.
yeah.
And since I saw it on the chat here, I'm just peeking into the chat.
Hmm.
I just can reiterate about the topic of headphones versus speakers for mixing. You don't need speakers for Atmos. Remember, you don't need speakers for Atmos. You can do a full-blown Atmos mix on headphones. And when it comes to music, it will be 95% of people will listen to it on headphones, period. And that won't change in the near future. So what you are
That's true.
doing, what you are doing with your Dolby Atmos mix, and if you want to start with Dolby Atmos, that's the way to go. It's feasible, it's easy, it's fast. You don't need all this hassle with big speakers. Of course, if you have and if you want, be my guest. Go ahead, no worries. But with the headphones, um, you are well equipped, and then you're not only well equipped, even if you have a big studio setup, you should mainly mix on headphones when it comes to Dolby Atmos music. You should do that and only check back on speakers if you want to make sure that it also on speakers everything is as you want. But the main mixing environment for Dolby Atmos music should be headphones. This is contrary to what most people say. And if you look at the Dolby YouTube channel, and when they do some interviews, some engineers about their mixes in Dolby Atmos, they always show off their studio with the speakers, and they always talk about the speakers and how they managed to get the speakers in the room and what speakers they are and how they're measured and all this big long story. But this is just people brag
Irrelevant.
irrelevant. Exactly, irrelevant, and people just bragging about their equipment. But in the end, what really counts in the end is the result, and the result on headphones is more important, more relevant to the music listening audience than that on speakers, period.
Yeah, right. And and the tip, if you want to be really, uh, if you want to be really good and be sure, then it's good to have, even different pairs of headphones, because there are headphones that sound very analytical and clean. That might be good for detailed mixing and positioning. And if you use then some which are a little bit more bombastic sounding, like these, you can use to to fine tune, season the bass and the stuff and the LFE. Then you're usually pretty well equipped. And speaking of LFE, that's also a thing that's a kind of personal thing, but and a taste thing. But I found it so cool that Stephen Wilson mentioned that as well, because he said if you're in the streets and you're sitting, you're waiting at the traffic lights, and sometimes a car is coming up next to you, and you hear this amazing bass that just is heard, outside the car very loud as well. And if you listen closely, it's mostly that it's urban music that you're hearing there. And so many other genres, the older music genres, very often sound like they're mixed for vinyl. So I'm missing the bass. And just because we have the modern listening systems, even speakers and the headphones for sure, don't be afraid of the bass and make an impact for the listeners there. Don't over mumph it, of course, but a healthy amount of bass adds to the experience when it comes in, goes out, and stuff like that. So and that you can control with the headphones also
Yeah,
very very well, and it
because the
translates also with the spatial stream on the streamers.
yeah, the LFE will be rendered to the binaural uh, binaural algorithm. So, and if it sounds well on the binaural algorithm, it almost always sounds well balanced when you listen to it on speakers. This is very important because if you know your headphones and you know how bass parts should sound, and you balance it well, then it will also most probably in I don't know 99.9 cases translate well on speakers, because the way Dolby made the algorithm, the transcoding of all the different signals, including the LFE to the binaural algorithm, is optimized for that parity, for that they can be, that you can go back and forth, and that you don't have a problem with, well, if I turn up the LFE, it sounds good on speakers but bad on headphones, and vice versa. So this is very important. And also, which is important, two more things you need to take into account when mixing on headphones. One thing is you can use a personalized HRTF, but that is also irrelevant, because in the end, only you will hear it through that. But the people out there, they don't have your PHRTF. That means your personalized head-related transfer function, which supposedly optimizes your headphone experience to your head. So it's not really important. I find it even more important to listen to the generic sound of the binaural algorithm, because this is what people hear in the end. And also, some people talk about head tracking. Head tracking is important when you have a visual fixed point. So if you're looking a movie on your laptop, for example, then it's really great to have a head tracking, so that when you move your head a little bit, that the place where the sounds are coming from in relation to your movie experience actually stay in the same place. You can use it also for music mixing, but you also need to be aware that most people don't have head tracking when they listen to music. And even if they have, after some time, they turn it off, because it becomes quite irritating if you walk around with your earbuds in, and you're listening to some Atmos mix, and then you turn around, and suddenly the singer, which was in the front, is now on the right side. And only after some time it just comes back if you change your direction. So music music listening without actually having a visual focus uh, should be uh, should be considered as something which is static, which is not moving with your head. So, or better said, it is moving with your head, and it's not static in a direction for which you would need head tracking. So, when it comes to music, this you have to take into account to actually mix as close as possible to the actual listener experience out there.
Yeah, and this also touches slightly, and I just to be complete, I want to address this. There's a lot of discussion about movement and automation and yada yada yada, and there were quite some mixes, mostly electronic music, where signals were moved around in the room. But it's a question of taste, of course. You can do it. The technology provides it, and you're allowed to do this, of course. But I very often think of it as well, when you're having a nice meal and a nice conversation in a nice room, and suddenly some kind of musician is approaching you with a screeching violin, and walking around you, wanting your attention, and you usually don't want anything like this at all, because it takes away your attention from what's actually going on there, this entire experience. So I also talked to quite some producers, and I found a lot of conservatism there, a healthy amount of conservatism, that this movement in 3D audio, immersive audio, should not be your first idea when you approach this. Create an amazing sound field and arrangements where things come and go, and maybe a little bit of movement, but this should come later. So all saying this to make you interested and start with an easy approach. The first steps are not steep. It's not what the big guys tell you out there, what you need. Just use your headphones. And if you think about it, if you have a laptop that has a stereo out, you can connect your headphones, and if you force Apple Music to play the Dolby stuff, you can evaluate what's out there, and then you can fire up your DAW with your stereo mixes and start one signal at the time to put them into the field, and you can constantly compare. It's very convenient, and you can do this when you're traveling or when you're on vacation, wherever. You don't have to stop to work and create your Dolby Atmos mixes with this approach. With the other workflows, you're shackled to that studio, and that's very limiting. And that's now how our world works these days. We are for the freedom and the freedom of creation and expressing yourself. Yeah, so that was basically a little bit of the Sunday's word, as we say in Germany, from my side. Thomas, would you have something significant to add? Because I think we touched a lot of very important points regarding music creation and the whole format thing around Dolby Atmos. There are quite some questions there in the chat. I saw that, but it would be a little bit too much to answer them now. So I suggested to the people they should come back when this stream is, in the if you can rewatch it, because we can go in and then after the stream answer the questions. So give us a day or so, but you should get all your answers there, and you will find it then added to the comments below the video then. And
I mean, if there are questions which are worth making a video about, then or talking about it in another live stream, then we will definitely do that. And if there are easy questions to answer with a few sentences, as Tom said, we will answer them below in the comments of this video. And you can also leave them as a comment there. And since you asked me if I have a finalizing comment, is don't get caught up in technicalities and think about this and think about that before you actually start. Just start, try it out, make the first steps, and when you make the first step, you will see what will be the next one, and so you will go on with your creation. If you are just starting out with Dolby Atmos, if you have some experience, then well, I don't need to tell you what Dolby Atmos is. I can just recommend you to try out our tools and try out our workflow. It's different from what you're used to. If you're using Pro Tools or Studio One or Logic or Nuendo or Cubase, it's different, but it's very creative, and there are many things which are easier to do there, where you can get quicker to some interesting results. And that being said, this live stream is just the start of something which we will do on a regular basis. We will have to figure out how often we will do it, but I'm sure it will be from time to time, since there are a lot of interesting topics out there. And if you happen to see that stream after it has been live, and you still have a question, or if you have another question which has not been asked in the chat or below the video in the comments, then just leave a comment in the video, and please recommend this video to others, and recommend becoming just subscribing to our channels so that you don't miss any updates when it comes to future live streams and future videos, which will be full of interesting content, not only related to our products, but to Dolby Atmos in general, because it's our mission to get Dolby Atmos to everyone, because it's not difficult to start. It's really easy to start. And I had a lot of talks with different artists, which were actually surprised how easy it is. I just remember one artist which I met recently. He's a singer and songwriter, and he, for some years now, is producing his songs for Dolby Atmos. Or better said, he's letting. He records all the stuff and he goes to the studio and lets the mixing engineer do the work for Dolby Atmos. And he was quite reluctant to actually put on his hands by himself until I showed him how easy it is to start with our tools to get into the Dolby Atmos world. He was totally surprised that it's really just a few clicks to just start mixing and start doing your things. It's not a rocket science, so to say. So that being said, um, let's
Try
start.
try
Let's
this at home.
try
Try
this
try
at
this
home.
at home.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I can say really, and with all the honesty, because I did it myself, and it's amazing. Try this at home. Go to the Fiedler audio website. Get the if you want to have a quick try, and you don't know about your time you can spend with this. You have the choice of getting the Dolby Atmos Composer Essential, which is essentially and practically and definitely for free. And so there's no demo period or so. So you can take your first steps there. Recommended is, of course, the full Dolby Atmos Composer. And if you get the Dolby Atmos Composer and Spacelab, for example, Spacelab works automatically together. You have this amazing experience of having also a 3D reverb. And the demo period is once you start for 2 weeks. And if you have any questions regarding special maybe tutorials, or if we should do some mix walkthroughs here, or if you want to see or hear some guests, we are looking into this as well. Just let us know. And yeah, follow us on all the social media channels. If you're in some Dolby Atmos creators user groups or so, let us know as well, because it might be worth of finding a place where there's a lot of interaction. And also let us know what you do with your Fiedler Audio Dolby Atmos tools, because we'd be happy to share mixes and talk about that. And we're always looking for people who have maybe a special way of using the products, and we'd also be happy to share that and promote this then as well. So for my side, I would say dropping the mic, if Thomas agrees.
Sure.
We drop the mic for now, and thank you so much for joining, and see you on social media at the next Dolby event. Maybe you come to BeatCon in Berlin. I will try to go. And it's so sad that the new Linkin Park record, at least the single, is not in Dolby Atmos. Great work, guys, and Emily Armstrong is awesome. So would be great to hear that in Atmos. And yeah, goodbye for now, and see you around. See you next time. Bye.
Bye bye.